The sky above Zarathus was dark with smoke and fire. Jagged mountains pierced the horizon, and rivers of molten rock ran through the valleys like veins of the planet itself. The air trembled with the roar of alien engines, the hum of energy weapons, and the cries of those caught in the chaos. On this war-torn world, battle was not just a game, it was life and death. Among the chaos, a human figure moved calmly. Captain Elias Ward, barely taller than some of the smaller Krivans, was easy to miss at first glance. His uniform was scorched and torn, but his posture remained upright. His eyes scanned the battlefield with precision, noting every movement of both allies and enemies. "Ward, over here," shouted Lieutenant Kira Jensen, waving from behind a collapsed building. Her voice trembled with fear, but she trusted Elias more than she trusted anyone else in this alien world. Elias jogged over, his boots crunching over debris. Around them, human soldiers were pinned down, their makeshift shields holding against the powerful plasma blasts of the Krivans. The humans were few, but their hearts were fierce. "Keep moving, Kira," he said calmly. "We need to guide the civilians to the safe zone." "Follow my lead," Kira nodded. She had learned long ago that when Elias said "follow my lead," it wasn't empty words. He had a way of turning hopeless situations into opportunities, of making even the most inexperienced soldiers feel capable. From a nearby ridge, the Krivan commander, Vera Koth, watched carefully. She was massive, taller than any human, with sinewy muscles and sharp, glinting eyes. She had led countless battles across the galaxy, crushing those who dared oppose her. Yet there was something about this human that made her pause. He wasn't charging blindly. He wasn't cursing or panicking. He moved with purpose, positioning his troops with small gestures and quiet words. Even under the pressure of overwhelming enemy fire, he seemed calm. Vera Koth's curiosity grew. She had heard stories of human weakness, of fragile bodies and short lifespans, and yet here he was, standing amid chaos as though he belonged. "Interesting," she murmured. "So this is what humans call bravery." Back on the ground, Elias led Kira and a small group of civilians through a narrow corridor of rubble. Plasma fire hissed nearby, scorching the walls, but he never faltered. He directed the civilians with clear, simple instructions, keeping them calm. "Stay low. Keep close. We'll get through this." One of the civilians, a small child, began to cry. Elias knelt, resting his hands gently on the child's shoulders. "It's okay," he said softly. "We're almost safe." "You're doing great." The child sniffled and wiped their eyes, trusting him instantly. Elias smiled faintly and rose, ready to move again. The Kraven forces surged forward. Towering warriors with heavy armor and energy blades pressed the humans from all sides. Most would panic under such pressure, but Elias stayed focused. He pointed to a narrow gap between two buildings. "Cover that flank," he commanded. "Use the debris as shields. Don't fight them head-on." His soldiers obeyed, moving with a speed and coordination that surprised even the hardened veterans among them. Each human knew their role because Elias had taught them. He had trained them to think, not just act. To adapt, not just follow orders blindly. Vera Koth's brow furrowed. How could one human influence so many others so effectively? She leaned closer, watching Elias step into the open, deliberately drawing fire. The Krivans attacked with precision, but Elias moved unpredictably. He dodged, rolled, and countered in ways that seemed almost instinctive. And yet every movement had a purpose. Each action guided his team, leading them safely through the crossfire. One of his soldiers, Private Loon, froze as a massive Krivan charged toward him. Elias sprinted forward, tackling the soldier out of the way and deflecting the Krivan's blade with his shield. He didn't strike to kill, he struck to redirect, to teach his soldier how to respond under pressure. "You see, Loon?" Elias said, catching his breath. "Don't try to match their strength. Use your position, use your mind. You can win without fighting them directly." Loon stared wide-eyed, but then nodded. For the first time, he felt capable. For the first time, he believed he could survive. Vera Koth felt a strange sensation. She had fought countless enemies, yet this human did not seem like the usual kind. He was not driven by anger or hatred. He was not trying to dominate, he was teaching. The idea was alien to her. In Krivan culture, strength was measured in power and conquest. To survive meant to strike first and strike hard. And yet, here was a human surviving, even thriving, by showing others how to think, how to move, how to grow stronger. The sound of a distant explosion snapped her attention back to the battle. A human medic pinned under rubble, was about to be crushed by falling debris. Without hesitation, Elias sprinted across the battlefield, weaving through plasma fire and energy blasts. He lifted the rubble with the strength of desperation and courage, saving the medic. The human smiled up at him. "Thanks, Captain. Keep moving," Elias replied. "We're not done yet." Virakoth's mind raced. This human was not fighting alone. He was building strength in others while facing danger himself. He wasn't just surviving. He was creating a team that could endure even the most impossible odds. On the horizon, more Kryvan reinforcements approached. Elias saw them coming and assessed the terrain quickly. A ruined bridge spanned a chasm ahead, barely stable. Civilians could not cross safely, but with careful guidance the humans could make it. "Form a line," he instructed. "I'll lead the civilians. Soldiers, cover the rear. Stay calm and focused." The humans obeyed. Step by step they crossed the shaky bridge. Elias's movements were precise, calculated, and calm. He encouraged those who stumbled and reassured the frightened. His leadership transformed fear into action, chaos into order. From the ridge, Virakoth's respect grew. She had never seen a creature survive in battle by inspiring others rather than overpowering them. Humans were fragile, yes, but fragile in a way that could be stronger than brute force. When the last civilian crossed safely, Elias turned to see a group of Kryvans advancing. He raised his hands, not to attack, but to position his soldiers strategically. Each soldier moved as if guided by a silent force, creating traps, ambushes, and defensive lines. Virakoth's eyes widened. The human was not fighting blindly. He was teaching tactics, patience, and adaptability, even in the heart of battle. As the Kryvans charged, Elias stood in front of his team, calm and collected. "Remember what we practiced," he said quietly. "Use your brains. Protect each other, adapt." The humans followed his lead. They dodged, they feinted. They responded to threats with coordination that surprised the aliens. One by one, the Kryvans were slowed, confused, and forced to retreat. Virakoth clenched her fists. She could not understand it fully, but she could see it clearly. The humans were surviving because of leadership, courage, and teaching, not brute strength. When the smoke cleared, the battlefield was silent except for the occasional groan of the injured. Humans stood together, battered but alive. Elias looked over his team, ensuring everyone was accounted for. He offered a small, tired smile. "Good work," he said softly. "We'll get through this together." From her vantage point, Virakoth finally understood. This human was not like any enemy she had faced before. He wasn't just fighting. He was showing the universe what humanity truly was capable of. And in that moment, she felt a spark of something she had never felt in battle before. Curiosity, respect, and even admiration. The war on Zarathus raged on. But for the first time, the Kryvan commander wondered. Perhaps strength was not measured by the power to destroy, but by the power to teach, inspire, and endure. And Elias Ward, the human captain, was showing her exactly how it could be done. The morning after the battle, the smoke had cleared from the valley of Zarathus. The ground was scarred with craters, and twisted metal and debris littered the streets. Despite the devastation, human soldiers moved calmly among the ruins, tending to the injured, rebuilding barricades, and preparing for whatever might come next. Captain Elias Ward walked among them, observing quietly. His eyes were sharp, but his demeanor was calm. He had learned long ago that panic or anger achieved nothing. Clarity, guidance, and patience, these were the tools of survival. Lieutenant Kira Jensen approached, carrying a small crate of medical supplies. "Captain, another group of civilians is trapped near the East Ridge," she said. "The Kryvans are regrouping. We need to act quickly." Elias nodded. "We move carefully. I don't want anyone taking unnecessary risks." He turned to the soldiers around him. "Form pairs. Cover each other. Focus on coordination, not confrontation. We will get everyone out safely." As the humans prepared to move, Virakoth observed from the ridge above. She had followed the aftermath of the battle, curious about the human captain's methods. She had expected chaos, destruction, and fear, but she had found something entirely different. The humans were organized, calm, and alert. They communicated without shouting, supported one another, and used the ruined landscape to their advantage. Every action seemed deliberate, every decision calculated. Virakoth narrowed her eyes. How can such fragile creatures act so effectively in the face of danger? She decided to descend closer, disguising her presence. If she could understand this human, perhaps she could learn something valuable. Meanwhile, Elias led his team toward the east ridge. The civilians were huddled behind a collapsed wall, terrified but unharmed so far. The children clung to their parents, eyes wide as the sound of distant explosions echoed across the valley. "Stay close," Elias said gently. "We're here to get you out safely." One of the adults, a woman named Marin, looked at him doubtfully. "We've heard about humans. They're weak, fragile. How can you protect us against the Krivans?" Elias knelt to meet her gaze. "Strength isn't just about muscle or weapons," he said softly. "It's about learning, thinking, and helping each other. If we work together, we can survive anything." The civilians exchanged nervous glances, but Elias's calm confidence was contagious. Slowly, they began to follow him as he guided them through narrow alleys and rubble-strewn streets. Viracoth watched closely. The human spoke quietly, giving instructions and demonstrating techniques for avoiding danger. He explained how to move silently, how to use cover effectively, and how to anticipate the movements of attackers. For a moment, Viracoth felt something unfamiliar, an almost painful admiration. Here was a being who had no natural strength compared to the Krivans, yet he moved like a teacher, a guide, a leader. Suddenly, a group of Kravens appeared from behind a ruined building, weapons drawn. The civilians froze. Elias stepped forward calmly. "Stay behind me," he said to the group. Then, with precise gestures, he positioned his soldiers to block the Krivans' path without directly confronting them. His movements were careful, almost like a dance. He used the terrain to confuse the enemy, creating the illusion of strength where there was none. The Krivans hesitated, unsure how to approach. Elias took a deep breath and addressed his team. "Use their confusion. Guide the civilians across. Don't engage unless necessary. We teach them today, not destroy them." The humans moved as one. The civilians followed their example, stepping carefully, learning from each movement, guided by Elias's patient instructions. The Krivans, frustrated, attacked recklessly, but the humans adapted, each action anticipating the enemy's next move. Viracoth's mind raced. She had always believed that strength came from domination, but here she saw something different. Humans could survive because they could learn, teach, and adapt. They did not rely solely on brute force. They relied on connection and intelligence. By the time the civilians reached safety, Elias had already begun teaching his team new strategies for defense. He demonstrated how to block corridors efficiently, how to move silently while keeping everyone together, and how to use minimal energy for maximum effect. One of the soldiers, Private Loon, struggled to keep up. He stumbled over rubble, nearly falling into a crater. Elias was there in an instant, steadying him. "It's okay," he said calmly. "You're learning. Every mistake teaches you something. Keep going." Loon's eyes lit with understanding. He followed Elias's instructions more carefully now, moving with confidence. For the first time, he felt capable. From her hidden vantage point, Viracoth felt a strange curiosity. This human does not act alone. He teaches, inspires, and strengthens those around him. That is how he survives. She decided to test him. She stepped into the open slightly, careful not to reveal her full form. A sharp crack of energy rang out, and Elias turned instantly, scanning for threats. His eyes locked on her. "You're watching," he said softly, as if speaking to the wind. "It's okay. Observe and learn just as I would." Viracoth froze. The human spoke with such calm assurance, as if he understood her presence without fear or hostility. She had expected anger, a challenge, or even fear, but not this. Elias continued guiding the civilians, never breaking stride, never raising his voice. Each instruction he gave was simple, precise, and effective. He corrected mistakes with patience, demonstrating the correct movements instead of shouting or punishing errors. By the time the last civilian crossed to safety, Viracoth's respect for him had grown. She had seen countless enemies in her lifetime, but she had never seen one who survived by teaching instead of fighting. After ensuring the civilians were safe, Elias returned to his soldiers. "We did well today," he said quietly. "But tomorrow will be harder. We must continue to learn and grow." The humans nodded, understanding not just the words but the philosophy behind them. Elias had taught them that survival was more than weapons and armor. It was about thinking, adapting, and supporting one another. Viracoth descended closer, unable to contain her curiosity. She stepped silently among the ruins, careful to remain unseen. and watched as Elias began instructing his team in the art of anticipation. He used simple objects to simulate threats, teaching his soldiers to react quickly without panic. He encouraged questions, praised correct decisions, and corrected mistakes with clear, gentle guidance. "Remember," he said, holding up a piece of rubble, "strength is not always physical. Use your mind, your eyes, and your instincts. Protect each other first. Everything else comes second." The soldiers absorbed his words like a sponge. Even those who had been terrified moments earlier now moved with confidence, learning from a human who seemed ordinary but carried the weight of extraordinary insight. Viracoth felt a stirring she could not name. She had always valued power, conquest, and strength above all else. But here, in the heart of battle, she saw a different kind of power, one that built others up rather than tearing them down. As the day wore on, the humans trained, rescued, and planned. Elias moved among them like a silent guardian, guiding without demanding, teaching without judgment. Even the most inexperienced soldiers learned from him, growing stronger with every action. And all the while, Viracoth watched, hidden but attentive. She realized that this human was not just surviving, he was transforming those around him, turning fear into courage, weakness into skill, and chaos into order. For the first time, she questioned her own beliefs. Could it be that strength was not just about domination and force? Could it be that true power lay in guiding, teaching, and inspiring? The sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the ruined valley in shades of gold and crimson. The battle was not over, but a quiet calm settled over the humans. They were battered, yes, but they were stronger, wiser, and more united than they had been before. Elias stood on a small rise, surveying the valley. His eyes caught Viracoth's shadow in the distance. He nodded slightly as if acknowledging her presence without fear or hostility. "Watch and learn," he whispered. "This is what humanity does. We survive not by destroying, but by teaching, inspiring, and growing together." Viracoth felt a chill run through her. She had expected a battle of strength, but what she saw instead was a battle of ideas, courage, and leadership. The human was not fighting in the traditional sense. He was teaching, and in doing so he was already winning. The valley fell silent, save for the soft hum of alien engines in the distance. And in that moment, Viracoth understood something profound. The war had only begun, but the human had already shown her the first lesson of survival, and perhaps the first lesson of true strength. The next day, the valley of Zarathus was alive with tension. The Krivans had regrouped, their massive armored vehicles rolling across the plains, and the humans prepared for what seemed like an inevitable clash. But Captain Elias Ward did not panic. He walked among his soldiers calmly, observing, calculating, and guiding. "Everyone ready?" he asked, his voice steady. His team nodded. "Good. Remember our strategy. Protect each other first. Adapt to the enemy. Think, don't just react." Lieutenant Kira Jensen glanced at him. "Captain, the Krivans outnumber us 10-1. How can we hold them?" Elias smiled faintly. "We're not holding them. We're teaching ourselves to survive. Focus on what we can do, not what we can't." From the ridge above, Viracoth watched again. She had followed the humans' movements all morning, hiding in the shadows. Every gesture Elias made seemed deliberate, every word carefully chosen. She could not understand how such a small, fragile being could command such respect and obedience. The Krivans advanced, their massive energy cannons lighting up the sky. Dust and smoke rolled across the battlefield as they prepared to strike. Most commanders would have ordered a direct assault, overwhelming the humans with sheer force. But Elias did something unexpected. He calmly positioned his soldiers in small moving groups, guiding civilians and inexperienced soldiers through the safest paths. He instructed each pair to cover one another, move with precision, and observe the enemy's weaknesses. One soldier, Private Loon, hesitated as a Krivan approached, towering over him. Elias jogged forward, steadying Loon's shaking hands. "Focus," he said. "See the opening. You don't need to match them in strength. Use your mind." Loon nodded, taking a deep breath. He raised his weapon not to attack blindly, but to block and redirect the Krivan's energy. The alien stumbled, momentarily off balance. Elias smiled. "Exactly. Every movement counts. Every thought counts." Viracoth's curiosity turned into something sharper. Interest. She could not deny it. This human had the ability to teach even in the heat of battle, turning fear into strength. Suddenly, a hidden Krevan ambush struck from the east ridge. Dozens of armored warriors charged with incredible speed, hoping to catch the humans off guard. Many would have panicked. Many would have fled. But Elias did something remarkable. He did not run. He did not order an attack. Instead, he adapted, formed defensive lines. He shouted, "Watch each other's backs. Move as one, think as one." His soldiers responded instantly. They blocked the ambush paths, creating a web of coordinated movements. Each soldier knew their role, anticipating the Kryvan's attacks before they happened. Virakoth narrowed her eyes. How could such fragile beings react with such precision? The humans did not rely on weapons alone. They relied on training, observation, and trust in one another. The battle escalated. Energy blasts streaked through the air, buildings crumbled, and the ground shook under the weight of the Kryvan's advance. Yet through it all, Elias moved calmly, directing his team like a conductor guiding an orchestra. Cover the civilians. Use the ruins for protection. Adapt to their movements. He shouted, his voice carrying over the chaos. A group of young recruits, barely trained, were struggling to stay together. Elias ran to their side, showing them a simple pattern of movement. Step left, then right, keep low, keep close. Now try it, they did. They moved more confidently, dodging energy blasts and reaching safer ground. Each success built their courage, and soon, even the most frightened soldiers were acting decisively. Virakoth's mind was racing. She had fought countless battles, but she had never seen anything like this. This was not raw power. This was strategy, guidance, and growth in action. From her hidden position, she saw Elias lift an injured soldier onto his shoulders, carrying him through a narrow alley while simultaneously giving instructions to another team. He was everywhere at once, teaching, protecting, and leading without hesitation. Impossible, she muttered. One human should not be able to do this, but the humans were thriving. Every movement, every decision, every rescue was a lesson. Elias taught his team how to think quickly, move efficiently, and trust each other completely. And in the process, they began to adapt faster than the Kryvans could anticipate. In the center of the battlefield, a massive Kryvan warrior charged, swinging a heavy energy blade. Elias met him not with a direct attack, but by maneuvering the warrior into a narrow passage where the large alien could not swing freely. "Step aside, let me guide you," Elias said quietly to his team. The soldiers quickly formed a human shield, using debris and obstacles to control the Kryvan's movements. Step by step, they led the alien into a trap. When the warrior finally stumbled, Elias spoke to his team. "See what happens when we think ahead? We use our brains, not just our strength. Every move is a lesson." Virakoth watched in disbelief. The humans had taken control of the battlefield without brute force. Elias had turned what should have been a slaughter into a living classroom, teaching survival and strategy in real time. The ambush was over, and the remaining Kryvans retreated. The humans had not only survived, they had learned and grown stronger in the process. Elias gathered his soldiers together. "Today was hard, but you all did exceptionally well," he said. "You adapted, you protected each other, and you learned. That is what makes us strong, not weapons or armor, but the ability to think, teach, and grow together." The soldiers cheered quietly, exhausted but proud. Even the young recruits now moved with confidence, carrying injured comrades and helping rebuild barricades. Elias's teaching had transformed fear into courage, weakness into skill. From the shadows, Virakoth felt a strange mixture of emotions. She had always believed that strength was measured in power and conquest. But here was a small, fragile human reshaping reality through wisdom, patience, and guidance. She stepped closer, curious but cautious. She saw Elias kneeling beside a young soldier, explaining how to use cover effectively. He spoke gently, encouraging, correcting mistakes with care. Virakoth tilted her head. This was no ordinary human. He had not only survived impossible odds, he had strengthened those around him while doing so. As night fell over Zarathus, the battlefield was quiet, except for the occasional distant explosion. Humans and civilians alike gathered in a small safe zone, exhausted but alive. Elias walked among them, ensuring everyone was accounted for. "Rest for now," he said quietly. "Tomorrow we learn more. Every day is a chance to grow stronger, not by fighting, but by teaching and supporting one another." Virakoth watched from a nearby ridge hidden by the darkness. She realized that she had been wrong to judge humans solely by their physical weakness. The true power of humanity lay in its ability to adapt, teach, and inspire courage. For the first time, she wondered if there was more to war than dominance. Perhaps strength was not in crushing enemies, but in building allies, teaching skills, and creating unity. Elias stood in the center of the safe zone, looking at the stars above Zarathus. He thought of the Krivans, of the battles to come, and of the humans who had survived against impossible odds. He smiled faintly. "We don't just fight," he whispered. "We teach, we learn, and that makes us stronger than anyone thinks." From her shadowed vantage point, Viracoth nodded, silently acknowledging the truth she had witnessed. The human was not just fighting. He was showing the universe what humanity could achieve through knowledge, courage, and teamwork, and in that moment, she understood something profound. The battle might be raging, but the human captain had already begun winning without ever raising a weapon to kill unnecessarily. The night settled over the valley, and a quiet determination filled the hearts of those who had survived. Humans had endured another day, not by brute strength, but by teaching, guiding, and lifting each other up. And somewhere, watching from the shadows, Viracoth realized that she might have a lot to learn from them as well. The morning sun rose over Zarathus, casting long shadows across the broken battlefield. Smoke from the previous day's fight still lingered in the valleys, curling like ghostly fingers across the scarred land. The humans moved steadily among the ruins, checking supplies, tending to the injured, and repairing barricades. Despite exhaustion, their morale remained high. Captain Elias Ward walked calmly among his team, observing each soldier carefully. His eyes were sharp, but his face was relaxed. The events of the previous day had been hard, yet every soldier had learned something valuable. Today they would grow stronger, not through violence, but through understanding. Lieutenant Kira Jensen approached, holding a small data pad. "Captain, reports indicate another Krivan patrol moving toward the northern ridge," she said. "It's larger than the last group," Elias nodded. "Then we adapt," he said simply. "Stay calm, focus, and remember what we learned yesterday. Teach each other, guide each other, and we will get through this." From a ridge across the valley, Viracoth watched again. She had spent the night observing the humans from a distance. She had expected fear, panic, and chaos, yet what she saw instead was organization, calm, and learning. She had never encountered a species like this before. Elias Ward, the human captain, had survived impossible odds not through brute force but through teaching and inspiring those around him. Each action he took seemed to guide not just humans, but even the course of events themselves. Curiosity drove her closer. She kept to the shadows, careful not to reveal herself, as she watched Elias demonstrate basic tactical movements to his soldiers. "Remember," he said quietly, pointing to a ruined building, "observe your surroundings. Use cover, anticipate threats, and communicate silently. We are a team. Protect each other first." A young soldier, barely 16, stumbled as he tried to follow the instructions. Elias immediately stepped forward, gently correcting the soldier's stance and guiding his movements. "Like this," he said calmly. "Keep your knees bent, stay low, and move with purpose. You are learning, not failing." The soldier nodded, his eyes lighting up with understanding. For the first time, he moved confidently, dodging a simulated attack and taking his position correctly. Viracoth tilted her head. She had seen countless warriors fall from fear or hesitation, yet these humans were learning in real time, growing stronger with every mistake. She had always believed strength was measured by raw power, but here, she saw a different form of strength, one built on knowledge, guidance, and trust. Elias continued teaching, moving among the soldiers, offering guidance without ever raising his voice or showing anger. He corrected errors with patience and praised correct decisions with warmth. Even the most timid soldiers began to act decisively, their confidence growing with each small victory. Viracoth watched closely, fascinated. She had fought in countless battles, but she had never seen anyone lead like this. He did not demand obedience. He inspired it. He did not rule through fear. He taught through action. Suddenly, a distant explosion shook the valley. Another Krivan patrol had arrived earlier than expected, attempting to cut off human reinforcements. Most commanders would have panicked, ordering immediate attacks, but Elias did something different. "Stay calm," he shouted. "This is an opportunity. We will guide. We will protect. We will learn." He moved quickly among his soldiers, directing their positions and instructing them on how to respond to the new threat. His words were clear and simple, but their impact was profound. The humans began to move as one, their actions coordinated and precise. Viracoth stepped closer, hidden by debris, unable to resist observing. She saw Elias lift an injured soldier and place him safely behind cover while simultaneously guiding two others in a flanking maneuver. He seemed everywhere at once, teaching, protecting, and leading without hesitation. The Krevan patrol approached, confident and armed to dominate. Yet they were met not with fear, but with coordinated movement, calculated resistance, and unexpected resilience. The humans adapted to every attack, using the terrain, their numbers, and their minds to overcome the odds. Viracoth's respect deepened. She realized that Elias's strength was not in his own physical abilities, but in his ability to empower others. Each soldier became a part of a living system, guided by Elias's calm confidence and insight. By midday, the Krevans were forced to retreat, unable to break the human lines. The humans had not only survived, they had grown stronger through every challenge. Elias gathered his soldiers. "You did well," he said quietly. "Remember, every challenge teaches us something. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn. Protect each other, guide each other, and grow together." The soldiers cheered softly, exhausted but inspired. Even the youngest, most inexperienced recruits now moved with skill and confidence. Viracoth lingered, hidden but attentive. She had seen enough to understand that humanity's power lay not in raw strength, but in its ability to teach, adapt, and uplift others. She had seen Elias turn fear into confidence, hesitation into action, and chaos into learning. As the sun began to set, Elias moved among the civilians who had been sheltered during the battle. He checked on the injured, reassured the frightened, and encouraged the weary. His attention to each person, no matter how small, made them feel safe, valued, and capable. Viracoth watched silently, a strange feeling growing within her. She had fought countless enemies, but none had inspired her like this human. She realized that Elias's teaching was not just about survival, it was about transformation. He was shaping minds, hearts, and spirits, leaving an impact far beyond the battlefield. Later, as the humans rested, Elias sat quietly on a rock, gazing at the stars. He thought of the Krivans, of the battles ahead, and of his soldiers, each of whom had grown stronger through his guidance. From a nearby ridge, Viracoth observed him, hidden by shadows. She was no longer curious alone, she was reflective. She wondered if strength was more than domination, if leadership could exist without cruelty, and if teaching could be more powerful than force. Elias's calm presence seemed to radiate even across the distance. He did not seek recognition or glory. He sought only to guide, protect, and inspire, and in doing so, he had created a bond among his team stronger than any weapon or armor. Viracoth could not help but feel admiration, and perhaps even a flicker of envy. She had never encountered a commander who could achieve so much without crushing opponents, without fear, without anger. As night fell, she retreated to the shadows, pondering what she had learned. She realized that Elias was teaching a lesson that extended beyond battle. True strength is not just physical but moral, intellectual, and spiritual. It comes from the ability to guide others, to inspire courage, and to help others grow. The humans slept that night with a sense of peace unusual for soldiers in a war zone. They had survived, learned, and grown. Elias walked among them quietly, checking on each person, ensuring that everyone felt safe and valued. Viracoth remained hidden, studying his every action. She realized that the human captain's influence extended beyond the battlefield. He was shaping the future of every person around him, leaving lessons that would last long after the war ended. By the first light of dawn, she knew that her perspective had changed. The humans were not weak. They were not fragile. They were strong in ways the Krivans had never imagined. Through teaching, understanding, and unity, and Elias Ward, the human captain, was the living embodiment of that strength. For the first time in her life, Viracoth felt respect for an enemy, not fear, not anger, respect. And she realized that she might even have something to learn from him, lessons that could change not just her life, but the course of her people as well. The battle would continue, but the lessons of today would endure. Humanity's power was no longer a mystery. It was visible, tangible, and undeniable. It was the power to teach, inspire, and transform. And Captain Elias Ward was proving it every day. And somewhere in the distance, the Craven commander vowed silently, she would return, but not just as an enemy. She would return to understand, to observe, and perhaps one day to follow the lessons of the human captain who had shown her the true meaning of strength. The battlefield of Zarathus was quiet that morning. The air was still, except for the faint hum of distant Craven engines. The valley, once scarred by fire and smoke, now seemed almost peaceful. Yet every soldier knew that another clash could erupt at any moment. Captain Elias Ward walked among his team, his eyes scanning the horizon. His soldiers were tired, but they moved with confidence now. They had survived impossible odds, not because of brute force, but because they had learned, adapted, and taught each other. Lieutenant Kira Jensen approached, holding a data pad. Captain, the Cryvan reinforcements are regrouping. They're larger than before, and this time they've brought heavy artillery. Elias nodded calmly. Then we continue what we've been doing, he said. We don't fight recklessly. We teach, we adapt, we protect each other. That is how we survive. From a nearby ridge, Virakoth observed silently. She had followed the humans for days, witnessing their methods, their teamwork, and their patience. She had begun to understand the human philosophy. Survival was not just about strength. It was about guidance, knowledge, and unity. Today, she would step closer. She could no longer stay hidden. She wanted to see for herself how this human led, how he inspired, and how he survived. As Elias led his team toward the northern pass, the Cryvans advanced. Massive armored vehicles rumbled across the valley, energy weapons gleaming in the sunlight. But Elias did not panic. He moved with precision, positioning his soldiers in small, coordinated groups. Each human knew their role, each civilian knew where to go, and each movement was calculated to maximize safety and efficiency. Virakoth watched as Elias stopped suddenly, pointing toward a ridge. We'll use that elevation, he explained to his soldiers. It gives us a view and a defensive advantage. Stay alert, protect each other, and adapt to the enemy's moves. He split the humans into teams, each with a specific task. One group would guide civilians to safety, another would secure supply routes, and a third would monitor Cryvan movements. Every instruction was clear, every action intentional. The Cryvans charged. Massive blasts shook the ground, and energy beams streaked through the sky. But Elias's team moved as one. They did not panic. They reacted intelligently. They used cover, guided each other, and avoided direct confrontation whenever possible. A young recruit named Tali froze under pressure as a Cryvan warrior approached. Elias was there instantly, guiding her hand, showing her how to redirect the attack. You can do this, he whispered. Think, don't fight blindly. Protect yourself and we protect each other. Tali's eyes widened with understanding. She moved with confidence, blocking the Cryvan's path and stepping aside safely. Elias nodded, smiling faintly. Virakoth's respect deepened. This human was extraordinary, not because of his strength, but because of his ability to teach, inspire, and protect. She realized that humans had a unique power that could not be measured by size, muscle, or weapons. The power to empower others. As the battle progressed, the humans faced heavy attacks, yet Elias remained calm. He moved among his team, offering guidance, correcting mistakes, and praising good decisions. Each action reinforced the lesson that strength comes from unity and learning, not fear and domination. One Cryvan commander, more cautious than the rest, watched Elias closely. He had expected humans to break under pressure, yet he saw them move with precision and confidence. It was almost frustrating. The humans were not just surviving, they were growing stronger as the battle unfolded. Virakoth made her decision. She stepped into the open, revealing herself to Elias. The humans froze for a moment, unsure if she was a threat. Elias raised a hand calmly. I see you, he said. You don't need to hide. Observation is the first step toward understanding. Virakoth hesitated, then lowered her weapon slightly. She had expected fear or hostility, yet Elias's calmness was disarming. He did not see her as an enemy, but as a being capable of learning. You teach them, she said quietly, almost in awe. Even in battle you teach. You do not just fight, Elias nodded. Fighting is easy. Surviving is harder, but teaching, guiding, and inspiring, those are what make us stronger than the battlefield itself. The Kryvan forces were advancing again, and Elias turned back to his soldiers. "Prepare carefully," he said. "Use everything we have learned. Protect each other. Guide the civilians. Every action matters." The humans moved with confidence, following Elias's instructions flawlessly. They used terrain, traps, and coordinated movement to counter the Kryvans. Every soldier acted decisively, every civilian followed guidance, and every move became a lesson in adaptability and teamwork. Vera Koth followed, observing closely. She noticed how Elias never took credit. He praised his soldiers, encouraged the timid, and corrected mistakes without anger. Every action reinforced the principle that true leadership is service, not domination. As the Kryvans pushed forward, one of their massive energy cannons became exposed. Elias pointed to it. "Team Alpha, disable it without engaging unnecessarily," he instructed. Using clever tactics, the humans managed to jam the cannon, neutralizing the threat without unnecessary bloodshed. Virakoth's admiration grew. This human was proving that victory did not require killing or destruction. It required intelligence, patience, and teaching. Finally, the Kryvan forces retreated. Exhausted but victorious, the humans gathered together. Elias moved among them quietly, checking on everyone, offering encouragement, and ensuring that no one was left behind. Virakoth stepped forward fully, leaving the shadows behind. "Captain," she said, her voice steady but full of wonder, "I came to fight. I thought you were just another enemy. But I see now, you are not just fighting, you are teaching. And in teaching you have shown something far stronger than brute force." Elias regarded her calmly, nodding. "Strength is not measured by what you can destroy," he said softly. "It is measured by what you can build, guide, and inspire. Everyone here, my soldiers, the civilians, they have grown stronger because we work together." Virakoth lowered her weapon fully. For the first time, she felt no hostility toward humans. Instead, she felt respect, admiration, and even curiosity. "I have much to learn," she admitted. "Perhaps even from you." Elias smiled faintly. "Then observe, listen, and grow. That is all anyone can ask." The humans and Virakoth stood together on the battlefield, the remnants of war around them. The lesson was clear. True strength lies in teaching, guiding, and inspiring others. Not in domination, not in fear, but in empowering those around you to be their best selves. In the days that followed, a remarkable thing happened. Virakoth began to visit the human camp regularly, observing their training, learning their strategies, and understanding their philosophy. Slowly, she began to teach her own forces differently, emphasizing guidance, coordination, and care rather than domination. The Kryvans began to change. Where there had once been fear and aggression, there was now observation, strategy, and learning. The humans had not only survived, they had transformed the very culture of their enemies. Elias continued his work, never boasting, never claiming glory. He moved quietly among his soldiers and the civilians, teaching lessons in patience, courage, and unity. Every small action was an opportunity for growth, and every success reinforced the principle that humanity's strength lay in its ability to teach and inspire. Months later, the Valley of Zarathus was no longer a battlefield in the traditional sense. Humans and Kryvans worked together to rebuild what had been destroyed. Walls and barricades were repaired, supplies were distributed fairly, and the wounded were cared for on both sides. Virakoth stood beside Elias, observing the activity. She had become one of his students in a sense, not of combat, but of leadership, patience, and teaching. She had learned that true strength was not about overwhelming opponents, but about guiding, inspiring, and building others up. "Captain," she said quietly, "I understand now. The battle raged on, but you were never fighting alone. You were teaching, and in teaching you have shown all of us what it means to be truly strong." Elias smiled, a calm warmth in his eyes. "We all teach even without knowing it," he said. "Every act of guidance, every word of encouragement, every small lesson, these are what make us strong, what make us survive, and what make us better than we were before." Virakoth nodded, finally understanding the depth of humanity's power. She realized that strength was not measured by weapons or armor, but by the ability to inspire courage, teach others, and unite people under a shared purpose. The humans, once seen as weak and fragile, had shown the universe that true power was in their hearts, minds, and actions, and Captain Elias Ward had been the living example of that truth. As the sun set over Zarathus, the valley glowed softly with a new kind of light, one not born of fire or destruction, but of understanding, unity, and the human spirit. The battle had ended, but the lessons of humanity would endure forever. Virakoth and the Krivans had learned that strength could take many forms, and that the greatest victories were not won through violence, but through teaching, guiding, and inspiring. And in that moment, the universe saw a truth that would never be forgotten. The human captain had not just survived, he had changed the hearts of his enemies, and in doing so, had proven that humanity's greatest weapon was not the sword, but the ability to teach and uplift others.